Hi, my name's Teresa Hutchins. I'm the owner of New Forest Sewing Studio, and we do a monthly make, and this month we're going to make the Pauline Alice Albors Trousers, which were a sort of workwear style wide leg trouser. I'm going to make them, they are very slightly cropped. I'm going to make them slightly more cropped in length. The line drawing is just on the back there, so you can see a bit clearer. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to angle the camera down just so that you can see a little bit better. Okay, so on the instructions, also it comes with a nice label in the pattern so that you can put in your trousers. So that's nice. So the instructions are very good, they're very clear. It does say initially to, first of all, to put the fly zip in, but actually I prefer to put the front pockets on the fronts first and then do the fly zip. So that's the way round I'm going to do it. So we've got the front pieces here, which is piece 1. Okay, so that's piece 1 of your pattern. The other thing is to say also you need to make sure you've done your notches and also marked on any of your pocket placement bits, which is on your front and also on your back pocket pieces. So it's just the main pockets. Has got some a tool pocket, side pocket, but there's not markings to fit those. They just, you'll see where they fit as we go along, but there are markings for the back pockets on the back piece, and also this is the angle where the side piece pocket fits. So you just need to make sure you've marked those on your trousers. I've just marked them with some carbon paper and a marker. So that's what I've done for those. Placing wheels, what's the word I was trying to think of. Right, so let's get the 2 pieces I want. Okay, so that's piece 1. Piece 2, I usually tend to lay them down on the work surface just the way that they'll go. So the middle of the jeans, the crotch piece in the zip fastening bit in the middle there. And then it wants you to assemble your opening of your side pocket. So I just put some, doesn't ask you to interface or anything, but I put some edge tape along the inside edge of that seam. So where this is going to be the bit of your pocket edge here. So I just put some edge tape, Blizzolene edge tape, which we do stock, which is this one here. Blizzolene edge tape, and it's just, if you can see through the packet, it's just like that, and it just irons on, but it just gives some strength to the pocket edge there, so that with your hands in and out the pockets, particularly on the front pockets, that they don't stretch out. So I put those on each of those, and then it just asks you to fold over 1.5 centimeters. So this bit, fold over 1.5 centimeters, and then fold it over to where you have a little notch at the top and the bottom. Just you'll see that folds in line like that. Okay, then pin that in place as I've done there, and then we're just going to need to top stitch down the edge of there. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you how we place them on to the fronts of the trousers. Okay. Okay, so we've sewed both of the pocket edges, top stitched those down. That's what it looks like on the front, that's what it looks like on the reverse. And then also we've just the long side seam and the bottom, the long edge of the pocket and the bottom edge of the pocket, and also the corner of the pocket. We've just pressed that all open, all in. Okay, so it's 1.5 centimeters, just press that under, and then we just line it up with the pocket with the pocket placement on the front of the trousers. So where you've marked here the area of your pocket front, which you marked from your pattern, you're just going to line that corner up with there, and then it lines up with the top, and it also lines up with the notch in the side edge of the trousers there. Okay, so we just pin that all in place. So make sure we get that right. Pin there first. And there. Just make sure it all sits nice and flat. Pin along the top edge as well, just so that along here as well, just so that we can baste that in place as well. So I've done the other one as well. So basically we're going to go and top stitch from the top here of the pocket down the side, across that little corner, and then round to the edge there. Okay, and also we're going to just baste, so a long stitch, just a basting stitch, just across the top there and down the side there, just so that we can, so along the top and just down the side, just so that we can keep that in place. Okay, so I'll do those and then I'll come back. Okay, so not sure if that recorded. So this is the finished pockets on the front. So we've done both fronts of the pockets, and now we're going to assemble the fly. We're going to do the zipper fly. So first of all, it wants you to neaten round, so either zigzag stitch or overlock around both the curved crotch seam of both front pieces, around the curved front of piece 10, which is the fly, so around that curved edge on the fly. And also it wants you to right sides together, pin together, right sides together, the fly facing, and then along the angled edge, the angled edge at the bottom, it wants you to stitch a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance on there, turn it in the right way, and then overlock down this long stitch here. So I'll go and do that, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done, and then we'll assemble the fly. So we've overlocked those, the inside of the crotch seams at the front, and also around the edges of the fly curve, and also down the edge of the, so we've sewn that together along the bottom, turned it in the right way, pressed it with the corner out, and then overlocked down that long edge, outside edge. So next we're going to fix the zip to the fly facing. So we want to position your zip, lining it up with the edge of the fly facing. So face up with the zip is face up and down along this overlocked edge that you've just sewn. And you want to line up the bottom end stop of the zip with the notch on your fly facing, which I marked in with a pen there, just so it's hopefully easier to see. So you need to line the end up with that. I'll do it and then I'll show you. There we go. So just on like that, as I say, the end is lined, that stopper end is lined up with the bit at your notch on the side. So we're going to sew down there, okay, and then we are going to sort out top stitching it, fixing it to the front and then top stitching it. So we'll stitch that bit first, and then I'll come back and show you what we've done from there. Okay, so we've stitched that to the fly facing, so about 7mm from the edge with your normal zipper foot. Just stitch down the edge there. Also, I should have said that I've interfaced the fly facing, which it says at the very beginning, and also the fly. And I did also interface, it does say to interface the waistband with just the pieces where the button tabs and the button's going to go, but I did interface the whole piece of the waistband because I just think it gives it that bit extra support. And I also did interface the my 2 back pockets, just because I want to put some decorative stitching just on the back there, and it's better for that if you've interfaced it. So back to the fly. So now it wants you to place the fly over the right side of your trouser front, aligning the edges, so just pin that in place. So face down, a bit tricky with the zip, so it goes in there. Okay, and you should find that the notch on your trouser piece will line up with the notch on your fly facing. Okay, so we're then going to stitch that down again using the zipper foot, 7mm seam allowance. Okay, and then we're going to turn it out. Once we've done that, we're going to turn it over to the other way, like so, and then we're going to top stitch down that edge there. Okay, so I'm going to do that first, and then I'll come back and show you where we're up to. Okay, so we've stitched the fly in there and top stitched it, and also it wants you just to notch into your seam allowance just below where the fly finishes there, just so that it sits flat, and then give it a press just to make sure that's all lined up. Just get rid of this big thread at the back here. Where are we? Okay. Threads there, get rid of those. Better if you just snip the threads off as you go, it just keeps your work much more tidy. So that's that one done. So next it wants us to pin the fly pin where we've done the fly face, with right sides together, pin the fly to the left front leg, so just along, so the left front leg just along the top there. Let me pin it and then I can show you without it falling off. Okay, so just down that edge there, so just pinning that like that. Oh, your phone's going to fall. Sorry, I went all skewered there. So yeah, just down the edge there like so. Okay, so we're going to stitch that on 1.5cm seam allowance. And again, clip the seam allowance below the end of the fly, and then press that over to the wrong side and then top stitch it. So we'll do that, and then I'll come back and show you what we've done and assemble the two legs together. Okay, so that's the fly attached, press to the wrong side, and then top stitch down the edge, and then again we just notch into that seam allowance there, just so that it sits flat. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Right. So now it wants us to attach the crotch seam together. So we just place the two legs right sides together, matching up the crotch seam, pin in place. Sorry, dry throat. Oh, that's better. Right, quick sip of water. So I'm just going to pin those together there, like so. That's those pinned together there. So I'm going to sew that seam, 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, and then we need to press the seam allowance towards the left side, so towards the left leg. So then the seam allowance, once we've stitched it, I'm going to press it that way towards the left leg. So I'll do that and then we'll carry on. So that's stitched together at the crotch seam, pressed towards the left. So at the moment we're looking like that. The zip isn't attached yet, which we're going to do next. So that's as we are at the moment. So next it wants you to lay it so face down, so wrong side up, and then position your fly. I actually find it easier to get it first positioned the right way round, just to check you've got it lined up properly along the front. Just stick a couple of pins in there. So, and turn it up the wrong way. And you know you got it lined up in the right place. I'll take those pins out. And then you just want to pin it to the zip, to the fly facing only, so not through to the front. Like that. Okay, so then just turn it over, make sure you've got it lined up correctly, that it sits flat along the seam, so that edge is sitting aligned up properly down the centre front, and then you'll actually, the way you've pinned it, I'll just show you a bit closer up, you've just pinned the zip to the fly facing bit, not through to the front yet. Okay, we'll do that in a minute. So that is just literally to the fly facing. We're going to stitch 2 rows of stitching down there, one closer to the zip, one close to the zipper teeth, and then the other one about 1/4 inch, 7 millimeters away from that. Okay, so 2 lines of stitching to secure that zip in place. And then we're gonna fix we fix the fly. We do some top stitching round to stitch that fly in place. So I'll secure the zipper, and then I'll show you how we tack it and stitch around that in place. Okay, so that's all stitched in place. So that's stitched to the fly facing. to the fly rather. So now it wants you to, best way to do it is just to lie it flat like so, pin it in place. So you're pinning the fly to the front of the trousers now, just so that it sits flat. So just check it sits nice and flat. One more corner there somewhere. Okay, so that sits nice and flat. And then what it wants you to do is to, from this side, so from the wrong side, once you've got that pin, so you're pinning the fly to the front of the jacket now. And it wants you to, so from the wrong side, just stitch a basting stitch all the way around the edge of that fly piece there. Once you've got that basting stitch in place, then you can turn it over to the front and keeping the fly facing out of the way, you're just going to top stitch, following along that line of basting stitches round to the bottom of the zipper line there, and then again stitch another row just inside of that. Okay, so we'll do that, and then I'll come back and then I'll show you how we do the top stitching down the rest of the crotch seam and the bar tacks along the side of the fly. Okay. So we've top stitched that in place around the fly and removed our basting stitches. So now that fly is secured to the front. Okay, and that's our working zip. So next it wants you to top stitch. So you've pressed your seam allowance towards the left leg, remember, so that's all pressed towards the left leg, and then starting from the bottom there, it wants you to top stitch up along there, and then it wants you to go 2 centimeters up past the top onto your zipper, but actually 2 centimeters takes me past where the zipper is, and then it wants you to go across and then down again, but I find I hit the zipper teeth and it's just too difficult to get it across that metal zipper. So I tend to go up to where the bottom, before the stopper bit, and then across there and then down. So I'll do that, and then the other bit they want you to do is do a bar tack here and here. So I'll do that and then I'll show you what we've done. So, oh, a bit too low. There we go. So that's our trouser fronts finished. So that's the bottom of the crotch seam top stitched along there, and the bar tacks just here and here, which secures the fly facing in place at the back. Okay, so that's the front of the Albors trousers finished. We'll do the back next. I'm just going to have a cup of coffee and walk my little dog before it gets too dark, and then we'll come back and finish and do the back trousers. Okay, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the back of this is move to the back of the Albors trousers. So first of all, it wants you to sew your dart in your back trouser piece. So get those. That's piece 2. so I've marked the darts in here. I've marked it with a, really close, I don't expect you can see it, I've marked it there with some carbon paper and a tracing wheel, and also marked the pocket placement there. So I'm going to line up those edges. So line up the notches at the top, and then the point of the dart to the bottom. Just put a pin through there so I can see where it is. Tail is stuck in, so there we go, there it is. So pin at the top of the dart, the bottom of the dart, and then in the middle. And then I'm going to draw that line in just onto the wrong side so I can see where we're going. Or not. Whoops. Okay, so then I just draw in that dart line just with a heat erasable pen, just so it gives you a nice clear line where to follow, from the top to the bottom. That's one. The same with this one. So align the notches at the top of your dart. Find the point of your dart, which is there. See it, and then it disappears. So we're going to sew those two darts, and then it wants us to press them, which side? Press them towards the centre back and then top stitch down them. And also at the same time I'm going to just edge stitch, so zigzag or serge along the top line here of this tool pocket one, and also across the top of tool pocket 2. Okay, so that's pieces 6 and 7. So I'm just going to do those, and then we can fold it over and make the tool pockets and fit them to the trousers. Okay, so I'll do that first. Okay, so we've stitched the darts and then just top stitched the darts. So you can back stitch at the top, but ideally at the bottom of the dart where you're top stitching, you need to not back, so don't back stitch. Just finish with some threads, and then so you've got your thread like that, and then just with your back thread, if you just pull the other one through, so just pull your back thread and you'll see the one, your top stitching thread, come through to the back. Pull that through, just tie it off, so just knot it sort of maybe 2 or 3 times, 3 times like that, and then usually do both at the same time. Just stitch in, just get a needle, pick it up, and just thread your threads. If you get a wider needle, you can usually get both through together, and then just thread them up through the back of those stitches, just so that you stitch in those ends. So just 3 or 4, so just like that, catching up behind like that, and then pull the ends through, There you go. So you've got the ends caught in. Just cut off the loose ends there. Okay. So then you just the end of your top stitching. You haven't got the lump. You haven't got any sort of. It's nice and neat. It just finishes neatly without any back stitching. Okay. So let's just put that needle away before I lose that. There it is. So next we're going to do the tulle pocket. Let's put those two on the side. So where we've overlocked those edges, so along there of that one and along there of the other tulle pocket, we're just going to press over to the wrong side, 1.5 centimetres, the top of that one, and on the diagonal top of that one there. Okay, so it looks like that. Okay, and then we're going to top stitch those. So 2 rows of top stitching down there, and the same again across the top of that one, and then we're going to put one on top of the other like so, and then we're just going to once we've got those top stitched, put them on top of the other, then we're just going to base stitch, so a long stitch just to base those together, to keep those 2 pockets together at the bottom there, so just within the seam allowance, within the 1.5 centimetre seam allowance at the bottom. So I'll do those, and then I'll come back and we'll position it. We'll turn under the edges and we'll position it onto our trouser piece. Okay. So I think that's stopped recording. So we've top stitched there. We've pinned the pocket in place. The bottom of the pocket lines up with the notch on the trouser there, and this top unfinished piece here just goes over the edge of your goes underneath the edge of your back pocket, so you can see it just sits under the edges on the marking for your pocket there. So we're going to top stitch that in place, baste it up here, and also at the same time we're going to stitch down the side of that the hammer loop piece, which is for the other leg, stitch down there, trim the seam, turn it in the right way, top stitch down each side, and then we can affix that to the other leg, and then sort out the back pockets. So I'll be back shortly. So we've got that one stitched on, and then we've made the belt loop, the hammer loop rather, so we've stitched that, turned it out, top stitched it. Then it wants you to pin one end, to baste one end at the angle of your pocket placement line that you've drawn on. So one end at your pocket placement line here, and then one end needs to sit just above the notch in your side seam. Obviously twisting it so that it will sit flat like that. I found I had quite a lot of loop spare. I think the loop's the same for whatever size you make, so mine's a sort of medium size, somewhere in the middle of the range, but I'm obviously going to take a bit off there because it was too big a loop to make otherwise. So that's, I will baste on there, and then the back pockets, I do it slightly differently. So in the instructions it asks you to fold over 1.5 centimetres and then fold over again, and then press your seam allowances in like so, but then you end up with this corner here. So I prefer to 1.5 centimetres over to the wrong side and then press it, lining up where your notches are, over to the right side, stitch your 1.5 centimetre seam allowance down here, and then we'll turn it out, and I'll show you, it just encloses the corners so you don't have those pieces. So I'll do that, show you what we've done, and then I'm going to put a design on there which I'll draw on with a tracing wheel, so I'll show you that, and we can stitch that. Okay, so I'll do those. so we've done our pocket pieces. Okay, so we've turned them in the right, stitched those down, turned them in the right way, pointed out the corners, top stitched along the top edge there, and then pressed your seam allowance under all the way round. So then that's your pocket piece. So I just want to do a little design on mine. So I use the templates. You can get various different templates from Closet Core. So if you just sign up to their website, then there's quite a lot of information you can get on there, lots of fitting information that you can print off as a PDF, and also you can print these off, which are your pocket designs, lots of different designs. So I've chosen this one. So I've marked it on the first one here. So I'll put some carbon paper face down onto my fabric, and then I've lined up my piece on there and then gone over it with the tracing wheel. So then to do the other pocket, to get them symmetrical, you want to place your carbon paper on again, but this time place the pattern face down. Then you'll get a mirror image of the other side. So I just put a pin to mark the centre of the bottom piece of my pocket, and I'm just going to line that up like so, and then you can just go over again. You can see the markings you made from before, so just follow those round. In that one. All the way round, and this little bit I've missed off here, just kind of back to front. And then lift it off, and you'll have a very faint, if I hold it up to the camera, you can just about, hopefully just about see where I've done the carbon with the tracing wheel. So I'm going to go and sew those, and then we'll position them onto the trousers. Okay, so that's the pockets top stitched. This will come off in the carbon print will come up in the wash when I wash them, so that's fine. So now we just need to place them onto the backs of the trousers. So lining up your side bits there and the bottom edge, like so. So move it slightly that way. There we are. And then pin that in place. Side piece there. Okay, so that's that one. So it pins over the, you pin it so that the corner sits over the top of that hammer loop there. Okay, so that's that side. And then this side, I want it to sit there. ends in first, then we'll just check to see if we've got them level. We might need to sort of realign them a little bit. So let's just get a tape measure. So we just check how far from the top, so that's 1.5. That's a little bit more, so I could do with coming down a wee bit to there. Quarters hip. That is 2.25. That is 2.25. Yeah. Okay, so we've got those levelled up correctly, so we'll pin that in place. It's quite important you get your pockets level on each side, because obviously when you're wearing them, then they're side by side, they're going to show whether they're level or not. So it's worth spending a few minutes just making sure that you've got them in the right place and that they're level before you top stitch them on. Okay, so just check that again. So 2.25. Fraction down on that one. Better. Okay, lovely. Those two, let me just check this way actually. Oops. 3/4, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch those on, and when we've done that, we're going to join the back seam together and top stitch that. Okay, so when I've done that, I'll come back and show you what we've done. I'll top stitch these on first, stitch the back seam, and then top stitch that, and then it'll be joining the two pieces together, but that might be for another day because it's getting late now tonight. So I'm going to stitch these on first and stitch that, and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, so that's the backs of the Albors trousers completed. So as I say, this carbon paper will wash off, carbon print rather will wash off. So the next step will be to join the trousers together at the inseam, top stitch that, join them together at the outer seams, check the fit. So just baste the outer seams first, and then we can put the belt loops and the waistband on. So we will do the rest of that tomorrow evening or Friday. All right then, see you then, bye bye. Hi, so we're back to continue with the Albors trousers. So we've done the backs and the fronts, and then we're just joining the two together. So just basically I've sewn them, but all you do is join the crotch seam together in the middle, and then line up one side down to the hem, and then the other side down to the hem. So just stitch that with your 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, and then overlock the edge like you have done the other seams, overlock the edge and then top stitch. So that's it, top stitched along there like so. Okay, so then we just need to join, got some fluff on it, then we just need to join the other seams, the side seams together next. So we just join them up at the top there, pin that together. Some notches here, things to line up. That's it. It all comes together quite evenly, so that's fine. There. So obviously you do this on both trouser legs, on both outside seams. So if you haven't made the pattern before and fitted it to you and things, even if you've done a toil and adjusted it, it's a good idea just to baste your side seams first, then just check them for fit, and then if you need to make any adjustments, let in or let out the side seams a little bit just for fit, then you can do. So I will do that. Just check the fit on them, and then when you're happy with the fit, that you haven't needed to adjust them at all with the side seams, then you can go ahead and stitch those, overlock the seams, and then press the seams towards the back on this one, whereas the inside leg seam was towards the front, but these ones are towards the back. Once you've overlocked it, pressed it towards the back, and then we'll do the next we'll do the waistband and the button tabs and the belt loops. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pin this one, sew them, and then we'll go on to the next bit with the waistband. Okay. Okay, so we've sewn the outside hem of both the trousers, trouser legs, and then we've then it just wants you just down the outside leg seam to stitch from the top. You see that there, just from the top down to just below the pocket opening. So I did down to there, just past my top stitch in there, and then to do a little bar tack on there like we did on the fly. Okay, so just in there, so do that on both sides. Check I've done the same. Yeah, so that's on the other side. Okay, and now it wants us to make the belt loops, and then we'll need to attach those to the waistline before we attach the waistband. So to make the belt loops, we need one actually, I'll cut two. To make the belt loops, you just need to overlock or zigzag stitch down one side of your belt loop, down one long side, and then we're going to fold it so the unfinished edge in first. So we're going to fold the unfinished edge in first and then fold that over on top. Okay, so we're going in with the unfinished edge first, over with that on top, press that down, and then we're going to top stitch down both sides, and then we need to cut it into the 3 pieces that we need. Okay, so I'll do that, and I'll be back and we'll fix the tabs to the waistline seam, baste them in place, and then fix the waistband. Okay, so we've made the belt loops, so it's just one continuous loop that you've sewn, and then you just cut it into 3, so it's 30 centimetres long, 10 centimetres each piece. You can just use your pattern piece, it's got it marked on there to trim them down as well. So then we need to line those up on the waist line of your trousers. So there's a notch at the front, line one upward there. Over a bit on there. I'm going to line it up with the edge of my top stitching there because I think that will be neater. Pin that in place, and then again with that one, line it up. So right side down, so the top stitch side of your belt loop goes facing down towards the right side of your trousers, and then so 2 on there, and then 1 along your back seam. I just need to trim my back seam up a wee bit. I've adapted it, I haven't trimmed the seam up. Right, okay, and then pin that one in place there. Okay, so I'm going to base stitch those on, and then we'll fix the waistband. So I'll just base those quickly. Okay, so we've basted the belt loops on to the waist seam of the trousers, and now we're just going to pin all the waistband on, so match the notch at the back to your back waist seam, and then you should have a notch at the side seams that match up, and then it should overlap slightly at the front, both sides. You may have a bit of extra if you've had a bit more ease to adapt for, but as long as you've got an overhang of about a centimetre to a centimetre and a half seam allowance at each end, okay, because you're going to join the other waistband, the inner waistband, to there, okay, to turn it out. So I'm going to go and sew those, sew that in place, and then we'll join the other waistband on and turn that out, okay. Okay, so we've sewn around the waistband there, and that's sandwiching the belt loops in the seam in between. Then next we need to put the under waistband on. So I've decided to baste my belt loops just to align with the top seam, just because I want to sew that in with the waistband seam, but it doesn't actually ask you to do that, but I just think it will make I just quite like that they're tucked in. So once you get your waistband piece, I've decided to do mine in a cotton, just a little bit of colour, just a little pop of colour, which is quite nice. So then I just align it up. Let's get this the right way round. That's it. So align it up. So again, it's the shorter edge, the inner curve of the waistband lining up with the inner curve of the waistband you've attached. So we pin that in place and then stitch around. On. Just follows the curve of the waistband round. It's quite a nice curved waistband, gives quite a nice shape to the trousers, other than with normal jeans you often have just a straight waistband, but it's quite nice to have a curved waistband, just gives a bit more shape at your waist. So pin round. So if you're not attaching the belt loops in the way that I am to attach them in with the waistband, then you just need to make sure they're tucked out of the way, so you don't catch them. I have got a little bit spare because I trimmed up my waistband before. Well, I adjusted it in a wee bit, so I have got a little bit spare there, but I know that. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that up, stitch that in place. And we also need to stitch down these side seams at the same time. So if you pin, I'll show you, and I'll actually pin that in place. Put that there, don't keep moving and pinning back. Okay, I'll just do the other one and I'll show you what I've done. So that will need to pin back to there. Okay, so we also need to stitch down this side piece, so the end of your waistband. Okay, so once you've lined it up together, you just need to turn up the end of your inside waistband, attached pin, to line up with the underside there. Okay, just show you that a bit nearer around the side of the camera. So that just needs to line up with the inside there, and then we're going to stitch down just down the side, so from the edge of there, so from the edge of your end of your waistband up, needle down, turn it at a right angle, so all the way round, again needle down, turn it at a right angle and stitch down to there. Okay, again lining up with the edge of your zipper fly, with the edge of your zipper fly there. Okay, so we'll go do that, turn it out. Sorry, that's my dog barking. Anyway, so we're going to turn that out, and then I'll show you how we attach it to the this piece, the other side to the waist, the waistband, this turned up piece on the inside. Okay. Okay, so we've attached the waistband, okay, and then I've trimmed up the seam allowance of the waistband and also clipped the corners off. So just taking it to the edge of where your stitching is, just clip that corner off, and that way you can turn it through to the right side. Just get a point turner or something and just push it out so that it's fairly, there's a bit of a wiggle. There we go, so just push that out, and then I'll show you this corner I've done. So then we're gonna, that corner folds over like that, over onto the edge there, and we're going to pin that in place initially. So we're going to pin that all the way around, like so. And then when we pin that all the way around, I prefer to just put a few tack-in stitches in, just so that then you can see that it's definitely sitting in the right place, and that it will, we're going to top stitch this side, and we need to make sure that it's definitely going to catch the under waistband here through this side. So if we top stitch along there, we want to make sure that we're catching the edge of this here. So I tend to just put some tack-in stitches in, just by hand. Just takes a few minutes, but those few minutes are just worth getting this in neatly, because you don't want to have to, you need to make sure you catch the underside of the waistband in with your top stitching to secure that in place. So stitches to start with, and then I just take it through in groove, so in the seam, in the ditch of the seam, as they say, through there and then through to the back, and just making sure I'm just catching the very edge of the under waistband there. Show you that again. So just catch the very edge of the waistband and just come in just sort of within the seam ditch, really, just around the seam ditch area. Ooh, very knotted here. That's it. There we go. Right. And then into the seam, into the ditch of the seam again, and just through, and just make sure you're catching just the edge of your waistband piece there. Okay, so we're going to tack that in place all the way round, and then that way when we top stitch, we'll know that when we top stitch close to that seam allowance there, we're definitely going to be catching in that waistband on the other side. If we've made sure that it's, you know, it's down at the level of the ditch of the seam, so it'll just make sure that you definitely catch all that in, and it makes a nice neat job of it. Okay, so I'm just going to take a few minutes to tack that all the way around. I won't record while I'm doing that, it's a bit like watching paint dry, I guess. So I'll do that and top stitch it, and then show what we do next. Okay. Okay, so we've got the waistband put in, we put our label in, waistbands attached, we've top stitched around the waistband, and we've secured the belt loops with the bar tacks, just like that, so the top and the bottom, so they're secured in on each of the bar tacks and the one at the back. Threads. I've also gone ahead and done the hem, so I finished turning up the hem and double stitching around there as it says. So next it's to do the belt tabs and the buttonholes. So it wants you to get piece 12 here and right sides together, so down one side to the point, up and up the other side, and then trim down the seam allowances like so. Just notch off the top corner and the side corners, just so that you can turn it out to the points, so roughly like that. Okay, and then you can use a point turner, but it's quite easy to, it's not a long tab to turn out, so just push it through the wrong side, pull it out like so, bit of a fiddle, and pull that out to the wrong side, right side rather. Come on. Always the way, the other one was really easy to turn out, and the one you want to do on camera doesn't want to come out. Right. Oop, nearly. Just get a point turner. Just press the corners out. Try and just gently do the tip. Sometimes if you can't quite get it, it's worth getting a pin with a bigger pin. And then just hooking the pin in and just gently teasing it out. It won't quite pull out. Okay, and then you want to give that a press, so that's it turned out. Okay, so then we just need to give that a press, and then top stitch around, 2 rows of top stitch, and it says around the tab, and then we're going to put the buttonholes in first, buttonhole on the end of each tab and the buttonhole on your trouser. So it's best to do the zip up, lay it down flat, just make sure that the zips are lined nicely, and then mark roughly where you're going to put your buttonhole. So making sure the zip's lined nicely, just roughly mark that in where you want that to sit. Just make sure it's in. It will be marked on the pattern also, but you can also just place it where you want. Just make sure you get it in the middle of your waistband. So I usually mark it with a mark like that. It's a heat erasable pen, so I usually mark it on like that, so I know I'm going to start there, it's going to come back to here, so my button around there. Now the buttons I'm using are jeans buttons, so my machine does a buttonhole. You can get various different types of buttonholes. It might just be your machine has a basic square buttonhole, but sometimes they've got a buttonhole with a rounded end at the button end, which, as these have got a wide point for the base of the button, then it just helps the button sit in there better in the buttonhole. So I'll probably do that one. I'll do these other two as well. So I'll measure onto there where I want that one to be. So you just want it in the centre, a little way away from there, so probably start in there, make sure that's in the middle, which it is, and like that. So I've also marked it on there. The other one, so I'm going to go and press this one, top stitch it, mark where the buttonholes go, put the buttonholes in, and then we'll go through attaching the tabs to the waistband, and then I'll show you putting the prim jeans buttons on using the vari pliers. Okay, so we'll just do this and then I'll be back. Okay, so we've sewn the buttonholes. I decided to do it with my top stitching thread to match the top stitching. So that's those both sewn in the button tabs and also onto the waistband. Haven't cut them open yet, we'll do that in a moment. So then it wants you to attach the button tabs to the waistband. So there's a marking that you should have transferred. If not, you can always get your pattern piece out and measure up against it. But the main thing is to make sure that you've got them placed where they should be and that they're even both sides. So it's worth just checking and measuring both sides to make sure that you've got them the same. So that's right sides together and facing, pointing towards your centre front, towards your zip. Okay, on that one, and again on that one. So then we're going to stitch a 1 centimetre seam allowance down there. So we're going to stitch down there and then fold it over and then top stitch over there. So I'll show you when I've stitched down there and then we'll go through the top stitching to reinforce it. Okay. Okay, so then when we've stitched down there a centimetre to secure that in place, and it wants us to fold that back, towards the centre back. So it's then best to just pin that in place to keep that there. And then it wants us to hold this tab, stitch this tab piece down. So it wants us to stitch a rectangle around there and then also stitch across the middle. So I usually find, particularly going across the middle, I find it easier to draw it in and on a heat erasable pen, and then you can iron it off. But just so I can, and also so I can show you, so it wants you to go down in a rectangle around there and then to go diagonally. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next, and that will be the sewing completed. Then we just need to put our buttons on, our jeans buttons on, using the area pliers. So I'll just go and sew these, and then we'll put the buttons on. Okay, so let's just move some of this out of the way so it's a bit easier. Okay, so now we're going to put these. So I've done the 2 loops, done the 2 button tabs here, and this one there. So that's those done. That's those completed. You see those? Okay. Okay. So principles the same for all of them. So do the buttonhole first. So mine's a like loop at the end for the button shape to fit in. So I'm just going to open that circle to get a nice neat circle at the end. It's really good with these punch pliers, she says. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that just makes the hole in the centre. Okay, and then we're going to open the buttonhole. Now sometimes you can do it with a seam ripper, opening up the buttonhole. If you do use a seam ripper, just put a pin in the end and then use your seam ripper, put it in and up. But if you've got the pin in the end, then you won't go through the end. But my fabric's a bit thick for the seam ripper, so I'm going to use the little chisel, the buttonhole opener, and then you just press down. It's just like a little chisel, and then just along a bit to get the other. Just be really careful that you don't get your stitches, that you just get the fabric. So that's that there. We'll put some spray stop on in a minute when I've done the buttonhole. So then do up your zip, get that to sit nicely, and measure where you want to place your button. So now you've got your buttonhole. Now you've got your buttonhole there. If you lay it flat, then you can just mark with a heat erasable pen just through the end. You want to mark where your button's going to go, is just through the end of the buttonhole there, the little circular bit at the end of the buttonhole. Okay, so then you've marked it over onto your fabric there. So again, using the punch pliers. If you haven't got punch pliers, then you can just use a little awl just to poke a hole through. But on the smallest setting on these punch pliers, it does quite a nice little hole through. You don't want it too big because you don't want your button to be loose, but you just want it right. And then you get the varia pliers. That's these. You'll get attachments for the varia pliers, which go in and out, which you get the attachments with the Prim button pack that you get. So the button goes in the larger one there, and the little pierced end that looks like a little tiny nail just goes in the other side, and there, like so. So that goes in like that. Okay, and then you just put it with the sort of nail type end up through, and then your button on top. Just make sure you're aligned before you put any pressure on. That's right. Make sure your fabric's not greased, and then just apply pressure. That will squeeze that on there. And then take that off, and that's your button on. That's your jeans button. So then we can do that up there. Do the zip up. Okay, and that's the jeans finished. Okay, I've already hemmed mine. So yeah, so they're good to go. I just need to put mine through the wash just to get rid of my carbon print where I did my pocket, where I did my pocket decoration. So yeah, a nice pair of jeans. You can't see them very well, but I'll try putting them like that. So I will give them a wash, and then I'll get some pictures and put them on the end of this video. Okay.
Yes, right.
So these are the jeans are made. These are the Albors Trousers jeans. Sorry about the dog in the background. It's on the morning. So they're quite a nice fit. You've got the button closures there. Pockets, as I say, I embellished the pockets on the back, and then you've got the tool loop there and the other pockets on the side there. So yeah, done.